The hospital was too quiet. The white lights above made everything feel cold. Ayan sat on the floor just outside the emergency room. His hands were shaking, and there was blood on his shirt. Sarah's blood. He couldn't cry. He had cried too much already. His eyes were red and empty. He just stared at the closed door where the doctors were trying to save her. A few hours ago, everything was normal. Ayan and Sarah had fought over something small. Maybe dinner plans or forgotten flowers. It didn't matter now. What mattered was that she had stormed out, taken the car, and never came back the same. The sound of the crash still echoed in his mind. The phone call, the rush to the hospital, the red lights, the smell of blood. It all felt like a bad dream, but he couldn't wake up. A nurse walked past, looking away, not meeting his eyes. He knew that look. Then the doctor came, a tall man with tired eyes and slow steps. He stopped in front of Ayan and took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," the doctor said softly. "She's alive, but her brain was without oxygen for too long. There may be permanent damage." Ayan didn't understand at first. What did that mean? Would she wake up? Would she talk? Would she remember him? "She might wake up," the doctor continued, "but she may not remember anything." The words hit him like a stone. No memory, no past, no love. "She's stable," the doctor added. "You can see her now." Ayan stood up slowly. His legs felt weak, like they didn't belong to him. He pushed open the heavy door and entered the room. Sarah lay on the bed, silent, still, with wires all around her. Her face was pale but peaceful. It didn't look like she was in pain. It looked like she had gone somewhere far away. He sat next to her and took her hand. It was cold. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He closed his eyes and remembered everything. The first time they met. Her laugh. Their wedding day. The day they moved into their first home. The way she used to smile at him for no reason. And now, all of that was gone? "I didn't mean to fight with you," he said softly. "I would give anything to take back those words." Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped slowly. But Ayan didn't leave. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He just held her hand and waited. Then, just as the sun was rising outside, "The window!" She moved. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes fluttered. Then slowly they opened. Ayan jumped up. "Sarah," he said. "You're awake." She looked at him. Her eyes were open but blank. She didn't speak. She just stared at him like he was a stranger. "It's me," he said gently. "Ayan, your husband." She blinked. Her lips moved, but no words came out. A nurse entered and smiled with surprise. "She's awake." Doctors rushed in. They checked her vitals, asked her name, asked her the date, asked her simple questions. She didn't know any answers. When they asked, "Do you know who this man is?" She looked at Ayan again. "No," she said quietly. "I don't know him." Ayan's heart broke. It was like watching someone take a knife to all his memories. But he didn't show it. He smiled gently and said, "It's okay. I'll help you remember. I'm not going anywhere." He stepped outside the room just for a moment and leaned against the wall, his eyes filled with tears. The woman he loved was alive, but she didn't know him. The person he would die for had forgotten he existed. Friends and family started arriving. Everyone tried to comfort him, but nothing helped. That night, he sat by her bed again. She was asleep. Her breathing was soft. He whispered, "Even if you forget me, I will love you again. I'll start from zero. I'll tell you every story. I'll bring back every smile. I'll love you, even if you don't remember why." Outside, it started to rain. The sky cried for him, but inside, something small began to grow. Not hope, not yet, but a promise. He thought it was the end, but life had just started teaching him the real lesson. Sarah sat on the hospital bed, looking out the window. The world outside looked beautiful: trees, birds, sunlight. But inside her mind, everything felt empty. She didn't know why she was there. She didn't know who she was. Even her own name felt strange in her mouth when she spoke it out loud. Ayan sat nearby, pretending to read a book. But he wasn't reading. His eyes were on her, watching every little movement, hoping for something, some memory, some smile, anything. The doctors had said she had memory loss from the accident. They didn't know if her memory would return. It could take weeks, it could take years, or it might never come back. Sarah looked at Ayan again. He looked kind. His eyes were soft, his voice calm. But to her, he was still just a stranger. Why? "Are you always here?" she asked one evening. Ayan smiled. "I'm your friend," he said slowly. He wanted to say husband, but he had made a decision. If she didn't remember him, he wouldn't force her. He would wait and win her heart again, even if it took forever. Sarah nodded. "You feel familiar, but I don't know why." Ayan didn't answer. He just smiled and brought her favorite flowers, white lilies. She didn't know they were her favorite, but when she smelled them, her eyes watered for some reason. One night she had a dream. She was dancing in the rain. Someone was holding her hand, spinning her. She was laughing. It felt so real. She woke up with tears on her cheeks. Ayan was sitting beside her, half asleep. "I had a dream," she said softly, "but I don't know who I was with." He looked at her and said, "Maybe it was someone important." "Maybe," she whispered. Days passed, then weeks. Sarah slowly started walking again. She had broken bones that were healing. She was quiet most days, but sometimes she would laugh at something silly on TV, and Ayan's heart would skip a beat. He remembered that laugh. It was the same one from their honeymoon. A nurse noticed and asked Ayan, "You love her very much, don't you?" Ayan nodded. "More than life. Why don't you tell her who you are?" Ayan looked down. "Because I want her to fall in love with me again. Not because someone told her to. I want her to choose me." The nurse wiped a tear from her eye. "That's rare," she whispered. One afternoon, Sarah sat in the hospital garden. The sky was full of clouds. She had a sketchbook in her hands, something the therapist gave her to help with her memory. She started to draw without thinking. Her hand moved like it remembered something her mind didn't. Slowly, a shape formed, then a face, then eyes. She stared at it for a long time. It was Ayan. She didn't know why, but she had drawn his face perfectly. Ayan came and sat beside her. She showed him the sketch. "I don't know why I drew this." Ayan's voice shook slightly. "Maybe. It means something." She looked at him. "Why do I feel safe with you?" Ayan didn't speak. He just smiled. That night, he went home for the first time in weeks. Their home. It was dusty and cold, but it was full of memories, photos, letters, their wedding picture on the wall. He walked into their bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Then he opened a drawer and took out a small notebook. It was his journal. He had written in it every day since the accident. Words he couldn't say out loud. Feelings he didn't want to burden her with. Pain he had buried deep. "I'll keep loving her," one page said, "even if she never remembers me." He brought the journal to the hospital the next morning, but he didn't give it to her. He just placed it on a shelf near her bed, silently. A few days later, Sarah was alone in the room. She couldn't sleep. She looked around and saw the small book. Curious, she opened it. Her eyes widened. page after page. Memories, words of love, drawings, stories. Her name written over and over again. Her favorite songs, places, the way she used to smile when she saw stars at night. She read it all. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She suddenly remembered his eyes, his touch, his voice calling her, "My moonlight." A memory flashed, her laughing. In the kitchen, as Ayan tried to cook and failed. The door opened quietly. Ayan walked in. Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" He stopped. "Tell you what?" "That you were my husband." He took a deep breath. "Because I didn't want to pressure you. I wanted you to remember on your own, or fall in love with me again, even if you never did." She stood up, walked slowly toward him, and placed her hand on his chest. "I don't remember everything," she said softly, "but I feel it. I feel something real." He looked into her eyes, his own full of emotion. "Then that's enough for me." Outside, it started raining again. But this time, they stood in it together. Sarah stood by the window in her hospital room. The rain had stopped, but the world still felt quiet, like everything had paused for her. In her hand, she held the small journal, Ayan's journal. She had read it over and over again, every word, every page, the way he wrote about her. It was more than just love. It was pain, hope, and a kind of waiting that broke the heart. She didn't remember everything, but now she understood something. He had never left her, not for a second. Every tea he made for her, every flower he brought, every smile he gave, even when she didn't remember him. It was all love, silent love, the kind that waits without expecting anything in return. Ayan came in with breakfast, like always. He smiled, like always. But today, Sarah smiled back differently. "Good morning," she said gently. "Good morning," he replied, trying not to show how his heart jumped at her soft tone. She looked at the tray. "You brought toast and tea, just the way I like it." He paused. "Yes, I thought maybe you'd enjoy it," she nodded. "I think I do." He looked at her with surprise. Her voice had a warmth today. Something was changing. She didn't say anything about the journal. Not yet. She wanted to watch him a little more. In the following days, Sarah began to ask small questions. What did I like to do? Where did we meet? Did we have a favorite place? And every time, Ayan answered slowly, carefully, as if he was afraid to give her too much, too fast. They walked in the hospital garden together. He told her how they first met at a bookstore, how she had dropped a novel and he had picked it up, how they both reached for the same book again and laughed. She listened quietly. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she looked away, holding back emotion. But Ayan noticed something. She no longer looked at him like a stranger. She looked at him like someone she wanted to know again. One evening, Sarah was watching the sunset from her bed. Ayan stood beside her, holding a warm cup of tea. She finally asked, "Why did you never say you were my husband?" He didn't answer right away. Then softly he said, "Because I didn't want to break your heart with a truth your mind couldn't hold." She looked at him. "But it broke your heart instead." He smiled sadly. "Yes, but I chose that." Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "You loved me, even when I couldn't love you back." He nodded. She looked down. "And I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," he replied. "Just be happy. That's all I ever wanted." Her fingers slowly touched his hand. "Maybe we can start again?" Ayan looked at her. Her eyes had softness again, not full memory, but full feeling. He gently squeezed her hand. "I'd like that very much." Days turned into weeks. Sarah's health improved. She was stronger now, walking on her own. Her mind was clearer, and bits of memory returned in flashes. The smell of cinnamon reminded her of rainy mornings. A song on the radio made her remember dancing in the kitchen. One afternoon, she saw a picture of their wedding. Her hands trembled. "I remember this dress," she said, "and I remember you looking at me like the whole world stopped." Ayan froze. You remember?" She nodded slowly. "Not everything. Just that moment. Your eyes." Ayan closed his own eyes for a second. That moment, the one he had dreamed about, was finally here. Not a full miracle, but a start. The hospital decided she could go home, but she didn't want to go back to an empty house. So she asked Ayan, "Can I stay with you?" His eyes softened. "You never left." Their home was still full of memories, but now it became a place of new ones. She saw old photos on the wall, notes they had written, even her favorite chair by the window. "Feel like I know this place," she whispered. "You do," Ayan said. "Every corner here is you." That night, as she sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, Ayan brought her hot chocolate. She looked at him. He was tired, but still smiling. He had lost sleep for months, stayed at her side without complaint, and carried pain with quiet grace. "You're a good man," she said softly. He chuckled. "I'm just your man." She reached out and touched his face. "I want to know you again," she said, "from the beginning." "Then let me tell you a story," he replied. He sat beside her and began to tell the story of their life, like a bedtime story, from the bookstore to the wedding to the silly fights and sweet make-up moments. She listened, with wide eyes and a soft smile, and when he paused, she whispered, "Don't stop." He looked at her. Her head was now resting on his shoulder. Tears formed in his eyes, but this time, they were not from sadness. They were from hope, from love, from the silent prayer that maybe, just maybe, life was giving them a second chance. The days moved slowly, like soft footsteps on a quiet road. Sarah was no longer just a patient. She was healing, not only her body, but her soul. Her memories were still broken, like scattered puzzle pieces. Some corners were missing, some shapes didn't fit, but something stronger had started to grow inside her, a feeling, a deep feeling, that told her she belonged with Ayan. Even if her mind didn't remember everything, her heart did. One rainy evening, Sarah was in the kitchen. She tried to make tea for Ayan. She had forgotten how. She picked the wrong leaves, used too much water, burnt her fingers, but Ayan rushed in just in time. "Careful," he said, grabbing the cup from her hand. She laughed, embarrassed. "I'm useless." He shook his head gently. "You're learning. You're trying. That's more than enough." She looked at him, her eyes warm. "You make it look easy." "I had years to practice," he smiled. "Years of loving someone who didn't even know your name," she said softly. He went quiet. She placed her hand on his. "I know now." His eyes widened. Sarah took a deep breath. "Not everything, but enough. Enough to know that I loved you once. And maybe I still do." Ayan didn't speak. He was afraid to ruin the moment, afraid to wake up from the dream he had waited so long to see. Later that night, Sarah walked into the small room with all their old things. She touched the books, the photo frames, the letters they had once written to each other. In the corner, she found a music box. It was old and dusty. But when she turned the key, it played a soft tune. She sat on the floor, holding the box close to her ear. Suddenly, an image flashed in her mind. A dance, a slow dance, in the living room. She wore a red dress. He wore a white shirt. They were spinning. laughing while this same tune played in the background. Her breath caught. She ran to Ion. "I remember something." His face lit up. "What? You... me... dancing?" Ayan's voice trembled. "Your red dress?" "Yes," she gasped. He took her hands gently. "That was the night I asked you to marry me." Tears rolled down her face. "I can't remember all the words," she said, "but I remember the feeling." "You said yes before I finished asking," he whispered. She laughed through her tears. "Sounds like me." The next morning, Sarah wrote something in her journal, not for memory, but for hope. She wrote, "I may not remember the whole story, but I remember how it made me feel." She left the page open. Ayan saw it, read it, closed his eyes. It was enough. Days passed. One night, as they sat on the rooftop watching stars, Sarah asked him something unexpected. "What if I never remember everything?" Ayan turned to her. "Then we'll build new memories." She nodded slowly. "Would you still love me? The new me?" He smiled. "I never stopped. Old you, new you. It's all still you to me." She looked up at the sky, tears in her eyes. "How did I get so lucky?" "You didn't," he said. "We both did." Sarah began to live again. She cooked with Ayan, even if she made mistakes. She painted again, even if her hands shook. She even found her old camera and took photos of their new life. Every click, every smile was a step forward. Sometimes her memories would return in bits. Laugh, a smell, a sudden phrase. But she no longer feared the broken pieces because she had Ayan and he had enough memory for both of them. One afternoon, Ayan came home with a surprise. He gave her a small red box. Inside it was a necklace, simple, elegant, with a single silver leaf. Sarah touched it gently. "It's beautiful." "It was yours," Ayan said. "You wore it every day. You called it your lucky charm." She smiled and put it on. "How do I look?" He looked at her like the first time, like the day I fell in love with you. That night, as she was falling asleep, she whispered something, softly, almost too quiet to hear. But Ayan heard it. "I think I'm falling in love with you. Again." He didn't say anything. He just held her tighter. And in that silence, everything felt full. Not perfect, not complete, but real. Because sometimes love doesn't need a full memory. Sometimes love is strong enough to rebuild what was broken. Sometimes the heart remembers what the mind forgets, and in the soft spaces between remembering and forgetting, they were finding their way back to each other, together. The days had grown brighter. Sarah laughed more, cooked better. She even teased Ayan like she used to, but deep inside her there was something still missing, a shadow, a door in her mind that hadn't been opened yet. Ayan noticed it. She would smile, but sometimes it didn't reach her eyes. She would talk, but sometimes her voice held quiet fear. "What's wrong?" He asked her one morning as they shared breakfast. She stirred her coffee slowly. "I feel like there's something important I'm forgetting, something painful." Ayan looked at her with soft eyes. "You don't have to force it," he said. "It'll come when it's ready." She nodded, but her fingers trembled. That night, Sarah had a dream, but this one felt real. She was running. Rain poured down. She was crying. There were sounds, horns, screams, brakes, and then silence. A crash, a broken scream, her scream. She woke, up gasping for air. Ayan was at her side in seconds. "Sarah, what happened?" She couldn't speak. She just held him tightly. "I remember something," she whispered through her tears. "It was a car crash." His face froze. "You never told me how I got hurt." He stayed quiet. She looked into his eyes. "Please, I need to know." Ayan sat beside her, his hands cold. That night, he began, voice heavy. We were fighting. Sarah blinked. Fighting? He nodded slowly. It was over something small. I can't even remember what started it. But you were angry. You walked out in the rain. He paused. I followed you. You didn't want to listen. Sarah's breathing quickened. You stepped onto the road, and I saw the lights too late. He lowered his head. The car hit you, not me. You pushed me out of the way. Tears rolled down his cheeks. You saved me, and you lost yourself. Sarah sat still, silent. The memory hit her like cold water. The crash, the pain, the sound of Ayan screaming her name. And then, nothing. Until. Now she reached for him. You've carried this all alone? He nodded. I thought, if I told you, it would break you again. Her voice was soft. But I was already broken. Ayan took her hands. I didn't want you to blame yourself. I don't, she said firmly. I chose to save you. I'd do it again. He looked at her, full of pain and love. I just wish I could have saved both of us, he said. You did, she whispered. You never gave up. That memory changed something inside Sarah. Yes, it was painful, but it also gave her strength. She wasn't just a victim. She was someone who loved deeply, who protected the man she loved. Now she remembered not just the pain, but the reason behind it. Love, the kind that didn't run away. The kind that stayed, even when everything else was lost. She began to write in her journal every day after that. Not just about memories, but about feelings. She wrote letters to herself. One entry read, I lost my past, but I found my purpose. I remember who I am now. And she started painting again. This time, not just flowers or quiet skies, but storms, wounds, and healing. Each stroke of the brush was a piece of her heart returning. One evening, Ayan brought her to the old garden behind, the house. There, under the moonlight, stood a small tree. It had been planted the day they moved in. Sarah smiled. It's grown, he nodded. Just like you. She knelt down, touched the soil. I used to talk to this tree, she said, a faint smile on her lips. Told it all my secrets. Ayan chuckled. It must have heard everything then. She looked at him. Want to tell it something now? He looked surprised. Like what? Anything. He knelt beside her, placed his hand over hers, and whispered, I love her. I never stopped. Sarah blinked, a tear falling down her cheek. She whispered too, she loves him, even if she forgot for a while. They stayed like that, hands in the soil, hearts in the open. That night they danced again, in the living room, same song, same steps, only now. Everything meant more, because now they knew what they had lost and what they had fought to get back. Sarah rested her head on his shoulder. I'm not afraid anymore, she said. Ayan kissed her forehead. You don't have to be. Because now she had her memory, her pain, her love, and her second chance. Weeks passed, but this time, every day felt like a quiet victory. Sarah smiled more. Not because she was pretending, because she meant it. The laughter was real, the peace was soft, the pain was still there. But now, it had a place. It was part of her story, and she was learning to live with it. One afternoon, Sarah stood by the mirror. She looked at her scar, a thin line on her forehead. It used to frighten her. It used to remind her of the accident, the pain, the memory loss. But now, she touched it gently. I survived, she whispered. This is proof. The scar was no longer ugly to her. It was a sign that even when life broke her, she didn't stay broken. She began helping others. There was a small center in the city for people who had memory loss, trauma, or emotional wounds. Sarah volunteered. At first, she only listened. Stories of accidents, loss, abuse, sadness, so much sadness. But as she listened, she realized she wasn't alone. And then she started speaking. She shared her own story. Not everything, just enough. I lost myself once, she told a young girl who hadn't spoken in weeks. But someone loved me until I found my way back. The girl blinked, and for the first time, smiled. Ayan watched all of this, quietly, proudly. He had loved Sarah through the darkness. Now, he was watching her shine. She wasn't just healing herself, she was helping others heal too, but even in peace. Life never stays still. One morning, a letter arrived. It was from the hospital. Sarah opened it, confused. Inside, there was a message. You are being invited for a full neurological review. New tech may help repair lost parts of your memory. She looked at Ayan. Do I want all of it back? He stayed quiet. That's up to you. Sarah held the letter, thinking hard. Then she slowly shook her head. I remember enough. I remember the love, the pain, the fall, and the rise. Ayan smiled. Then that's your answer. But fate wasn't finished yet. One day, while helping at the center, Sarah saw a boy. He was sitting alone, eyes cold, hands shaking. His name was Rahil. Sarah sat beside him. He didn't speak for hours, just silence. Then finally a whisper. My mom left. Said she was coming back. She didn't. Sarah's heart clenched. She didn't try to explain the world or offer false hope. She simply said, That hurts. I know. He looked at her, tears threatening. Will I always feel broken? Sarah shook, her head gently. No, not always. Some wounds, they hurt forever, but they also leave light. Light? She nodded. Yes, a soft kind, the kind that helps you find your way in the dark. Later that night, Ayan asked her, You okay? Sarah was quiet, thinking of Rahil. I see parts of myself in these people, she said. All that pain, it lives in silence. Ayan nodded. But now you speak, and your words are helping. She looked at him, eyes calm. Do you think I was meant to go through it? To help others? He held her hand. Maybe you weren't meant to, but you chose to turn your pain into something good. That's power, Sarah. She smiled. Not the small one. A full, warm, soul-deep smile. One evening, she sat under the same tree in their garden. Leaves rustled softly. The moon was bright. She brought her journal, wrote only 4 words. I am the light. She looked at the scar again. It no longer felt like a crack. It felt like a window, one that let the light in, and also let it shine out. She closed the journal. A tear ran down her cheek, not from sadness, from peace. They went to sleep that night, wrapped in quiet love, no drama, no fear, just peace. But sometimes, peace is only the quiet before another storm, and deep in the city, something stirred, a file, a name, a memory from someone else's past. Sarah's name. And someone was looking for her. Life was peaceful. For the first time in years, Sarah and Ayan had found balance. Morning tea, volunteering at the center, evening walks, warm dinners. It was simple, it was calm, it was safe, but peace is never permanent. Not in this world. One message, just one, changed everything. It came late one night. Sarah was reading on the sofa. Ayan was in the kitchen making tea. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Then a message appeared. "Do you remember me?" "You should." Her fingers froze. Heart began to race. She stared at the message. No name, no details, just those words. Ayan walked in and saw her face. "What happened?" Sarah showed him the phone. He read the message. His jaw tightened. "Maybe it's..."
Nothing. A mistake.
Sarah looked away.
No, I felt something. Like a shadow just touched me.
That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, her mind digging through old memories. Accident, hospital, lost time, and then a moment. A voice she hadn't remembered until now. Deep, cold, angry. "Sarah, you'll pay for this." She sat up, gasping. Ayan held her, worried. "A memory?" She nodded. "Yes, it felt real, but I don't understand it." Ayan whispered. "Maybe the past is coming back." The next morning they went to the police, but without a name or number. The officers could do nothing. "It could be a prank," they said. "Block the number, stay alert." But Sarah felt it deep in her chest. This wasn't a prank. It was personal. Later that day, a letter arrived. No name, no return address, just a single piece of paper inside. Sarah unfolded it. One sentence. "You ruined my life. Now I'll show you what that feels like." Her hands shook. Tears filled her eyes. Ayan grabbed the letter. "That's it. We go to a private investigator. This isn't random." Sarah sat down, pale. "I don't even know who. I hurt." Ayan placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then we find out, together." Over the next few days, Sarah's past was pulled open like an old book. They dug through old reports, news articles, hospital records, and then they found it. A case file. Sarah Ahmed, age 27, involved in a car accident. One fatality. Her eyes froze. Fatality? Ayan read it slowly. "You hit another car? The driver died." Tears ran down Sarah's face. "I didn't remember that. I didn't know." Ayan held her. "It wasn't your fault. The report says it was bad weather. No charges were filed. But someone still died," she whispered, and now someone wanted revenge. They traced the victim's name. Zion Malik. Unmarried. No children. But he had a younger brother. Naveed Malik. Sarah's heart dropped. That name. It sounds familiar. I think he visited me. After the accident. Ayan frowned. He did. He was angry. Said things no one should say. Sarah closed her eyes. "Maybe that's the voice I heard in my dream." Now it wasn't a dream. It was a memory, and Naveed was out there, watching, waiting. The next week was filled with fear. Sarah started seeing shadows outside their house, footsteps behind her. Once, someone banged on their door in the middle of the night and ran. She didn't sleep. Ayan stayed by her side every moment. But fear, it creeps into everything. Sarah began to break again. She didn't want to leave the house. She didn't want to smile. "I worked so hard to build this life," she cried. "Why is it being taken from me again?" Ayan held her face. "We won't let fear win. You are not that broken girl anymore. You're stronger now." Then, one night, Ayan didn't come home. His phone was off. Sarah called again and again. No answer. She ran to the street, heart racing, eyes searching, and then her phone buzzed. A new message. "You took my brother. Now I take something from you." Her breath stopped. Her legs gave out. She fell to the ground. Tears, panic, screams. She had lost everything once, and now it was happening again. Sarah stood frozen. Her hands trembled as she stared at the message. You took my brother. Now I take something from you. Her mind spun. Ayun, she whispered. She tried calling again. Nothing. Only silence. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears. Tears rolled down her face as fear gripped her chest. This wasn't just a threat anymore, it was real. She ran to the police, showed them the messages. The letter, the name. The officers moved fast, but not fast enough for Sarah. She didn't want to wait. She couldn't. Ayaan was out there. Maybe in pain. Maybe worse. I need to find him, she told herself. Not the broken version of her, the stronger one. The woman who had already walked through fire and survived. With help from the private investigator, she traced Naveed Malik's last known location, an old warehouse near the city's edge, abandoned, empty. But she felt it, a pull, a sign. She went there, even when they told her not to, even when the police said wait. It was dark, cold, quiet. Her footsteps echoed as she entered the warehouse. She called out softly, Naveed, please, we need to talk. A voice echoed from the shadows. You don't get to ask for anything. You killed my brother. She turned toward the sound. He stepped into the light. Naveed Malik. Eyes tired, angry, broken. He wasn't holding a weapon, but pain was all over him. You smiled. You lived. While he died. Sarah nodded slowly. I know. I didn't remember. Not for a long time. But now I do. And I will never forget what happened. His fists clenched. You think that makes it okay? No, she said. It doesn't. I wish I could go back. I wish I could change it. But I can't. All I can do is carry the pain and try to bring good into the world. He stepped closer. You deserve to suffer. Sarah looked at him, tears in her eyes. I already did. Every day. But I found light. Again. And you can too. He stared at her for a long time. You don't know what it's like to lose family. I do, she said. I lost myself. And Ayaan found me. Just like your brother loved you, Ayaan loved me. You took him because you're hurting. He was quiet. Then from the side room, a voice called out, Weak. Ayaan! Sarah ran. There he was, tied, bruised, alive. She dropped beside him, sobbing. You came? He whispered. Always. She untied him, but Naveed didn't run. He just stood there, watching. And for the first time, he looked tired, not angry. I thought hurting you would fix something, he said softly. But it didn't. The police arrived moments later. Naveed didn't resist. He turned to Sarah as they cuffed him. Do you hate me? She shook her head, tears falling. No. I see your pain, and I'm sorry for it. Weeks passed. Ayaan healed. Sarah healed again. This time, not from memory loss, but from fear, from the past. She still visited the center, still helped the broken, still carried the scar, and now, a new one, a quiet, invisible one on her heart. But she wore it with strength. One day, she received a letter from prison. Naveed. It read, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. But I do know this. You didn't run. You didn't hide. You faced me. That night changed me. Maybe, just maybe, your light reached me too. Sarah smiled, folded the letter, and placed it in her journal. Right next to her first page, I am the light. She walked out to the garden. Ayaan stood waiting. He opened his arms. She ran into them, and together they stood in the sun, not broken, but whole. They thought it was over, but life had one more lesson. Pain can break you, but love puts you back together.